All right. So it's my pleasure to welcome everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you might be. This program is the first of a series of events that are going to be held online for our creative entrepreneurs. And we seek to invite experts to come and share their experiences and the best practices in the ecosystem with creative entrepreneurs or those into creative arts. And then those people are able to ask direct questions and get some feedback and support. And so it promises to be very interesting sessions that will be held each month. And we are happy to have an amazing team of experts to share their experiences with us on the first call. Before I get them to introduce themselves, at least I want us to know those who are on the call right now. And so in no particular order, I'll just be mentioning the names of the people on the call as I see it on my screen. And once your name is mentioned, you can just unmute yourself and then briefly tell us about you. So your name, and if you're in the creative arts, what you are working on, or what business are you into. And yeah, so I have first Philip Brenya Crunchy on the call.
Okay, so I'm Philip Brenya Crunchy, a system engineer for Otis Integrated Systems.
Good to have you here, Philip.
All right, thanks, man.
Good. Then I see Funny Born. I hope I pronounced it well.
Yes.
Okay, good. Listen, you can just tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Stephanie Bonsu, and I'm into handcrafts.
Okay.
And drawing.
Right. Good to have you here. And then the Baobab entrepreneur.
Okay, so my name is Yaya. So I'm the founder of Baobab Entrepreneur and also the founder of YNS Professional Institute. So Baobab Entrepreneur is an entrepreneurship media, and the YNS is a IT center in our family.
Right, good to have you here. I see Divine. Hello, Divine.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Divine. I'm the founder of Happy Enterprise. It's a pickup station, buy online pickup station in the Volta region.
All right, good to have you here. Pope, you're welcome. Can you briefly tell us about what you do? Okay, it looks like Pope is unable to unmute. Then lastly, Emmett Graphics. Then I can...
Hello, everybody. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, please, my name is Courage Abomapo. I am a freelance graphic designer. I major in brand and visual identity design.
Oh, great.
I'm joining in right from KNUST.
Okay, good to have you on the call.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Right. So we are happy to have all of you, and those who are watching on YouTube, it's great to have you. We have our seasoned experts on the call. So I will allow them to briefly introduce themselves, and then we can start our conversation. Ojoma, are you able to speak from where you are?
I think just start with the video, and then when it comes to Q&A, I can respond.
You can respond. Okay, then that will be
Okay.
okay. All right. Then Philip.
Hi, my name is Philip. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm Philip Agbese, CEO of a creative hub in Abuja, Nigeria, called the Creative Arts and Visual Imagery Center. And I'm really happy to be here on this call. It gives me a lot of pleasure when I get to interact and engage with creatives across the continent. I'm really glad to be here. And of particular interest to me is the fact that Ojoma is here on this call as well. She's a colleague that I respect a whole lot. And I'm actually looking forward to learning so much from her. So I don't really know if I am here to speak or to learn, or probably both. But I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
It's always good to have both. Right. So let me start with you. Luis has not been able to join yet. So Philip, what we talk about the creative industry, what makes up the creative industry?
Well, thanks for throwing me off the deep end. I know that's what you like to do. So I'll get right to it. The creative industry is, should I say, not just an industry, but a couple of industries that have their origin in individual creativity, in skills, in talents, and which also has a potential for wealth generation and job creation. And it does this mostly really through generation of the skills or products that are mostly intellectually based. So we could say it's an industry that has its origin in intellectual properties. And when we look at them, I think they have about, should we say about 13 subsectors really under this creative industry. So probably be looking at the industry of advertising, architecture, the arts and antiques market, that's for visual arts and all that. We have crafts. There is also the industry of design, and very big. There is fashion. There is film and video. We have what is called the interactive leisure software industry as well. So you have a lot of things going on, gaming, computer software that addresses that. We have the performing arts, we have music, publishing, and of course we have television and radio. So they all collectively form what is known as the creative industry. Like I said, it's an industry that's based on generation of skills and exploitation of intellectual property. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, so now the creative industry, from this explanation, is a very big industry. And
yes.
I'm pretty sure today we will be helped to understand the kind of business models and the kind of support given to this industry, since it is a very vibrant and wide array of subsets playing in there. And so I will turn my attention to Ojoma while she also throw a bit more light on what the creative industry is and the kind of business models that works or should work in the creative industry. So please listen, and then afterwards we can ask further questions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ojoma Chai. I'm the managing partner of the creative economy practice at CC Hub. And I'm really pleased to be here this afternoon, to talk about business models and the visual arts sector. So first of all, hi everyone, my name is Ojamal Chai. I'm the managing partner of the creative economy practice at CC Hub. And I'm really pleased to be here this afternoon, to talk about business models and the visual arts sector. So first of all, what is a business model? And some of you are probably wondering, what does it have to do with me if I'm a visual artist? And the first thing I'll say is, if you're a visual artist and your plan is to earn a living from your visual art, then you definitely need to think about your work as a business. And to have a successful business is recommended that you have some kind of business model for the business that you're running. So what exactly is a business model? Very simply, it's just a plan for how you will run your business. What your business model will do is it will outline what you're selling. So what's your product? If you're a visual artist, what type of visual artist are you? Are you doing illustration? Are you doing painting? If you're painting, what type of painting? So just being really clear what your product is one part of your business model. So essentially what you're selling or the service that you're selling. You don't have to be a visual artist to be working in the visual arts sector. And I'll come to that in a second. But your business model will be clear on what you're selling, whether it's a product or a service. It will also outline what's so special about what you're selling. So if you're a painter, say what makes your painting different? Is it the colors? Is it your style? Is it the message? There's so many different things that you can consider. Some people will call that in a business model your value proposition. So what's the thing that you bring that's adding value to whoever is engaging with the work? And it's quite a difficult thing to do this often for the arts, because we're making art to express ourselves, right? And we're making art to, spread a message that you want to spread or say something that you have to say. So it can be a difficult exercise to think about it as a sort of product. And it's always really important to balance between maintaining the integrity of what you want to say versus being really analytical about it from a sort of purely business side. So anyway, you need to think about what's special about what you're selling. You need to think about who will you sell it to, and how will you sell it to them. So your customer, what type of person do you reckon will buy your art? Sometimes it's a question of price. Sometimes it's a question of aesthetics. It's a question of where you're from and the sort of memory that your art evokes. But you need to work through that and figure out who's going to buy my art and who's my customer. And within your customer base, you need to think about what types of customers do you have? Like, are they different types of customers, whether it's in age and where they're from, in their purchasing power? You need to segment them in that way. You need to be really clear how you'll make money, if your aim is to make money. So the only visual artists that I'm talking to are those ones that are trying to make money from their art. So let's be clear. So how will you make money? And in thinking about how you make money, there are a number of things. You think about your costs on one hand. So what does it cost you to create a piece of art, for example, to frame it, to get it in a store, to advertise and market, all of those costs? How do you make sure that your cost structure is such that the money that you're making is more than the money that you're putting in and still giving you room for a margin? Again, with visual art is tricky because visual art is not priced just based on the cost of material. There are other factors that come into play in terms of, years of experience of the artist, in terms of the audience reception. And so this is one tricky part for visual artists where the perception of value is not always directly tied to the cost. But the key thing is, for your business model, you need to think about what will you charge? How will you make money? And how do you make sure that the money you make is more than the cost that you're putting in at a very minimum? So those are the sort of key parameters. And there are many tools that you can use to create a good business model. One of the most common ones is the business model canvas. If you Google business model canvas, you'll find it, and it's kind of like a one-pager that helps you lay out these different things that I said. And when you work through the sort of questions in the business model canvas, if that's the model you're using, there are other ones, it then helps you to answer all of these questions, which then help you run your business in a way that's profitable and sustainable. Then if you're thinking about, right, when you're completing that business model canvas or any other tool that you choose to use, what are the things to consider and how do you make a good business plan? And for me, I think the key thing is understanding your sector and understanding the ecosystem. So as a visual artist, for example, who's in the visual arts ecosystem? Often when people think about the arts, they think about only the arts, which is critical. There can't be an art sector without the arts, but that's only one part. So if you take visual arts, and I think about the ecosystem off the top of my head, I'm thinking, okay, on the education side, the art schools, the people training visual artists, the fellowship programs, the residencies, all of the things that make that happen, those are part of the visual arts ecosystem. You think about the equipment and the software makers that are making the tools that you're using to make your art, or the software, if you're doing digital art, the software that you're using to do your art, they're part of the ecosystem. Obviously, the artists that make the art, whatever the type of art, are part of the ecosystem. You think about the packaging, if you're doing physical art, whether it's the frames or the sort of stands for the arts, all of the things that go into the sort of physical presentation of the work, all of the people that do that, even the carpenter that's helping lay out the sort of infrastructure for you to do an exhibition is part of your ecosystem. Then you come to the galleries, the shops, the art fairs, you know, the places where you showcase and sell the arts, online platforms, now NFT platforms, all of those are part of the visual arts ecosystem. Then the lawyers that are drafting the contracts that outline the relationship between you as an artist and maybe the gallery that's stocking your work, or maybe somebody that you're partnering with to reach a new audience, that lawyer is also part of the ecosystem. The marketing, the graphic design, the PR, the advertising, all of those, the ticketing, if you're doing events, the ticketing system, payment systems that enable you get paid if you're selling your work online. So you have to have a thorough understanding of all of the key players in your ecosystem, because that then helps you see all of the places where you can add value to your product, but where you can also extract value in terms of revenue. So I would say to make a good business model, the first thing you need to think about is just a clear understanding of the ecosystem. In my experience in many places on the continent, the problem that we have is that the business models are too linear in terms of the art, whereby as an artist, as a visual artist, you're probably only thinking about, right, I make art, whatever type of art it is, and I sell it in a gallery, online, or wherever. So you really only have one source of income. Whereas if you really understand the ecosystem, you can understand different ways to make money. So for example, as a visual artist, you can obviously sell the work, but how else can you extract value from that same work? So you can have the originals, you can have the prints, you can license the contents to people that are making products, you know, wallpaper, for example. If you license your art to a company that makes wallpaper, it means you have so many more manifestations of the work that you're making, so that you're not only relying on one stream of revenue to make money. And then in terms of the types of partnerships, again, in my experience, people are really linear in terms of the partnerships they look for. And so they'll be looking for galleries or stockists or just people where they can sell the work. But you can think about partnering with an interior designer, for example. If they're designing people's houses and offices all day long, it means that many of these places will buy art, or the interior designer can convince them to buy art. And if you're partnering with them, it means they'll be recommending your art to the homeowners and the people that are commissioning them. Another example is like if you're selling art, if you're doing visual arts, furniture stores. anybody that goes to a furniture store to buy something is trying to improve the comfort or the look and feel of their space, whether it's a house or an office or whatever. And so imagine if you partner with a furniture store so that they can stock your art. It means that the customers that are looking for improvement in their space have access to your art. So with business models, the key thing is you want to try and extract as much value as you can from every line of product that you carry. And so you need to be constantly looking for ways that you can maximize value, who you can partner with. That's not always obvious, but the only way that you can do that is if you deeply understand the ecosystem where you're working, and you can do that through research. If you haven't done it before, you should be researching your sector, looking at trends, looking at what's happening. NFTs are a big thing. Well, they were, and then they were not, and they're coming back again. But you need to deeply understand the trends, because if you don't, then you won't maximize the value that you could potentially have from the business that you're doing. So that's it from me. I'd be really interested to hear if people have more questions, but that's the sort of whistle-stop tour of what a business model is and how you can make a good one.
Very interesting and deep expressions of ecosystem knowledge in there for us, for Ojoma. We'll have a set of questions, follow-up questions for Ojoma, but before then, Lewis is now on the call. Lewis, you are welcome.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. Sorry. Terrible network. I had to move the car somewhere else and then try and connect. But I'm here.
Yes,
sorry.
Begging you. Yes, you're welcome.
Sorry to you all, ladies and gentlemen, men.
Yes, good to have you. Yeah. So Philip, let me come to you first. Do you have any reactions to the presentation by Ojoma? Anything to add?
Like I said, it's always a pleasure to listen to Ojoma because she just goes straight to the root of the matter. Indeed, one of the things she's mentioned is using like a business model Canva to even put a proper plan in place. What I've discovered in my years in the creative industry is that there's this notion that creatives have that once they can produce or create work, those who will buy them will come. Ojoma did say she was speaking to the visual artists who want to sell their art. And I want to toe the same line as well. Practically every industry I know, when people enter into those industries, they enter from a very systematic point of view. There's a lot of research as to what they want to do. They know what their skill sets are like, and then they compare and contrast with what's out there, what exists. And they have a complete eye view of what they want to do. But I don't see so much of that in the creative industry, particularly in the visual arts, where people just believe that once you've developed a talent, it will sell you. The truth is that as far as business anywhere is concerned, and in whichever industry that you find yourself, it's probably, should I say, 20% skill, 80% hard work. Hard work, networking, researching, figuring out what's out there, and how you can plug into the opportunities that are there. I really don't see why at this time creatives are not drawing up proper models for what they want to do, knowing what their skill sets are, knowing who needs those skill sets, knowing the channels with which they can push those skill sets out there, knowing what challenges they may face, what the government policy of where they are in is about the business they do. In fact, even creating a very holistic picture of the kind of people they want to sell their art to, or the kind of people they want to market themselves to. Knowing what those people do, knowing where you can find them, knowing what their interests are. if we go back to the old ways of art, the way it was done way back, it was that you created or you spent your lifetime creating art, which really then got great value, maybe based on who commissioned you or when you had passed on. But the world is no longer that way. We really want to reap from what we are sowing immediately. We don't want to wait until we've passed on. So you want to make money. And to make money, you need to understand the schematics of what makes things happen. If you find a successful artist out there, trust me, he's not relying on providence or just people to collect his work. No, he's doing a lot of work as well. So I think, I don't want to flog that issue, but I believe every artist should go back to a business model, Canva. Develop your business with the peculiarity to which you find yourself. Now we must understand that one person's success is not defined as the other person's own, but you must have an understanding of what you want to do, what your idea of success is, and then work your business in that direction. Picking up skills, picking up partners, strategic partners who can help. Ojoma mentioned quite a number of them. Going into certain kind of relationships, knowing where to place your art so that the people you have identified can find them and utilize them as well.
Right. Thank you also for those responses. Now, Louise, now we've had Ojoma and Philip all stating that even though creatives work out of passion, there is the need to build business models around what they do if they really want to survive. What do you think? Should creative artists see themselves as entrepreneurs? You are muted.
This to me?
Yes, please.
All right. Yeah, of course, yes. And you see, now in this day and time, entrepreneurship is something we all must do. No matter what, even if you work for someone, you must see yourself as an entrepreneur so you can constantly improve and add value to what you are assigned to do. If we are looking at entrepreneurship in that sense, then yes, every artist must be an entrepreneur. However, we realize that a lot of the successful people in area of industry are people who understand that you might be, in the case of artists, a lot of artists, we are the product, and the sense we create, other products. Then we need brains who are people who are stronger in fields that we are not strong in. So for example, you need to now look for partnerships in area of finance. If somebody wants to develop an app, they go to a hub like yours, Hyperspace, and then they are supported. People come to groom them. However, artists live in isolation. I'm a musician. I go to my studio. I write my songs. I try to engineer them or get someone to do them. When that product is done, then I'm now looking for people to help me distribute them. But the person who is going into an app development, a product development, sees things differently. They first want to understand the market. I heard my senior colleagues say that, you know, we need to understand what is needed in the market now and then develop to suit them. And so if that is what we are calling entrepreneurship, then yes, every artist must be an entrepreneur. But if you are seeing entrepreneurship as the one coming up with a business concept and developing the product and going onto the market to push and sell, that has a way of conflicting with art. A lot of artists are fighting capitalism. So if they are joining the mainstream capitalist movement as it is now, then they are forced to surrender the art for mechanical reproduction, which they see as design and not art. And so there is that conflict with artists. And if you're an artist like me, then you must find a fine balance, because if you are creating the work, something must sustain the production. And I find ways of getting companies help me produce, and then I must please companies by drawing attention to the work so they benefit. And so yes, I fall, and I bet you've seen a lot of my works. Gideon, sorry, you've seen a lot of my works. I lean towards entrepreneurship more than the traditional artists, and a lot of my colleagues don't see it that way. And so the training has to start from school to let them understand that the work has to be sustained. The production of the work must be sustained, and we must find a fine balance between helping society and at the same time making money to sustain yourself.
Thank you so much. So I think that now you are all aligned to the fact that artists need to find partners and they need to build business models. Ojoma, you mentioned that now most of the business models that some artists have used or employed are very linear. And that is why sustainability becomes an issue. And so they need to partner with others and try to create multiple sources of income. Would you want to throw more light on how, especially those who are starting and barely know people in the industry, can be able to do this?
Thanks, Gideon, and thanks, Philip and Louise, for all your inputs. I'm learning as well. So I think when there's something, okay, there's a few things. One is there's this concept of a single point of failure. Whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an engineer or whatever you are, single point of failure means if your business has one single thing that it relies on, that if that thing fails, your business will crumble, that's never a good thing. Because it means, so if there's only one shop, for example, where you're selling your work, or there's only one person that can do, I don't know, your marketing or whatever, it means you have one single point of failure. If that single point of failure disappoints you, then that's it. But in trying to mitigate against those single points of failure, you need to take into account your context. So a big corporation can invest millions in creating backup systems, but if you're a visual artist just starting out, obviously you can't. So you need to look at your context. You are starting out, you may not know all the big furniture stores, but who are the people that you went to art school with? Like, who are the people in your church? Who are the people in your neighborhood? What's the store that you go down the road to buy things from? So networks are networks. It doesn't, you can't start out and expect that the biggest store in Ghana will start stocking your work because you went there to tell them that you're trying to diversify your revenue. It doesn't concern them. So you need to start with the networks you have. And the further you grow, one, your network is growing along with you because they're also doing things to progress their business, but also you're gaining recognition and track record that then allows you to approach bigger partners and so on. So I would say that I say, go to a furniture store, go to an interior designer. Like, who are the people in your network that do those things, right? You yourself, if there's a carpenter down the road that's making stuff, it's not a fancy furniture shop, right? But it's somebody that you know that's making things for people that are trying to furnish their houses or their offices. So I think it's about your context and being realistic about the resources that you do have in your context and being realistic about what's possible depending on what stage of your career you are. If you're a student, your school, right? Like, where in your context in your school can you add value? So there's something around asset mapping. Asset mapping is look around you. What do you have? Who do you know, right? Where are you spending your time? There must be people that you're talking to. How can they add value to the work that you're doing? And how can you add value to them, right? Because that's another thing. Nobody really owes you anything, right? And in business, it's about mutual value. So it's not just saying, oh, I want to diversify my revenue because you're my friend, you must do X, Y. So what are you doing for the person? Are you sharing profits? Are you helping them have a more robust product offer themselves? So it's about finding ways that you can share mutual value with the people that are in your network. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you so much for that response. That's great. Now, Luis, you are an artist and leaning towards entrepreneurship, making your business sustainable as an artist. How has using a particular business model been of help to you? And can you share the business model for others to learn from?
All right. So originally, when I set out to, for example, I'm going to be very practical with it. And so we wanted to make stage plays for the university. So the concept was pick a book that the university is studying and then let them pay for it. So that was basically it. But I realized that it wasn't sustainable. They disappointed. So we had to really look at the model, and we said, okay, how about creating the plays, stage plays, I mean drama, creating them in such a way that we are able to market them to the general public to attend. That started, but we realized that we couldn't scale with that concept because a stage play could only accommodate, or the auditoriums in Kumasi could only accommodate a certain number of people, and beyond that, you couldn't. For example, the biggest auditorium here could take 1,200 people, and it could only charge so much. So there was no way we're able to meet the overhead and pay and make profit. So we decided to add radio drama to it and sell to advertisers. That one to realize that it was only up to a point. Then we realized we had to move on to television, social media. Now we are creating content to put on pay-per-view platforms. Today, as you can see, I'm wearing my apron. What we've realized is that advertisers are trying to cut down on advertisements. So in order to still make good money, we have decided to create a product and then use the platforms we have. On YouTube alone, we have over 300,000 subscribers. Use that platform to rather sell products. So we created a restaurant today. I was cooking when I had to run down. The network there is terrible, so I have to come and sit in the car and move the customer. And use the channels from YouTube to Instagram to Twitter to sell products. So while we still create content and make a little on YouTube and sell on platforms or pay-per-view, we still have products to sell. So there's so much we just can't sit and choose a model and stick to the model. We allow the business and the ecosystem and the community in which we find ourselves shape and mold the model that best suits the system. And that is what we are very malleable, we are very flexible because we want to be market leaders, and the monies don't come from one source. And if you grow horizontally, vertically, the Ghana's population is too small. So we must find ways of increasing horizontally, like adding on arms and limbs of the business so that from all sources and all angles, we can generate revenue. And so that is how we are looking at it. When the product comes, we allow the product to decide the best model for it.
Right. Thank you so much. When you were trying to say growing vertically and horizontally, it brought something to my mind. I was asking somebody that is he growing vertically or horizontally? Like my brother, I'm growing in all directions. It's 360. Wherever the money is, that's where they go. But Philip, what Lewis was saying is more of the adaptive business model, right? I know you're also an artist. You are also running an innovation hub. How can adaptive models help creatives to be sustainable? Using your own story.
What I'd like to first point out is the fact that every successful creative business or enterprise or person needs to integrate creativity with their business. So what you need to do really is select from the myriad or infinite choices you have in what you do to bring out a product or a service that will meet certain needs of your valued customers. And this needs to happen in such a way that is financially beneficial to you, but still remains true to your values. You know, Lewis was talking about not wanting to go the way of capitalism. You must find a balance, truthfully, with getting paid for what you do and yet keeping your values. So oftentimes, having success for your business may include quite a number of things. Financial reward, fulfilling your creative ambitions, staying true to your values, gaining recognition for your work. And you need to combine these things together to get what you will now term as your own idea of success. Like I said earlier, different people have different definitions for what their success journey is. And the big challenge with you now is to be able to find various streams of income. Ojoma mentioned a particular principle that has to do with failure. If your entire business outlook is based on just one particular thing, if it collapses, what happens? And I mean, let's be very practical here, which is also what happened, post-COVID, I should say, not pre, where all the known values we had about how the business models we had, everything, the traditional models, all went out of the window. Even in the world of visual arts, things changed completely. And while a lot of people went down, it actually opened doors for new people who were willing to work with the knowledge they have to gain new heights and do so many things. We need to ask ourselves two very important questions as entrepreneurs. One, what exactly are you going to offer from all the things you know how to do? What are you very good at doing? Identifying that, and then knowing who you want to give those things to, okay? Now, because you want to do that and the environment is very dynamic, Ojoma mentioned the ecosystem, it keeps evolving. You really need to evolve as well. So your business model can no longer be static. If you understand what a business model, or you've already drawn up one, you need to have a business model that is adaptable, truthfully, because a lot of things keep changing. Government policy can change overnight. If you are not ready for that, what happens? Demographics can change. Who are you actually looking at? Like your friend who says is growing both vertically and horizontally. The truth is that if you intend to stay alive in this world, you must look at the opportunities. A lot of visual artists have remained traditional and it's really hurting their businesses, okay? They don't want to adapt to the new virtual environment that is out there. They don't want to look at, the opportunities it presents. But the reality is that you will wake up. Ojoma mentioned a particular thing. He said NFTs came, then they went, now they are coming again. If you are an artist, you really need to start looking at these environments very crucially, because the truth is things are changing and we must change. You must have a model that is fluid enough that can transform. And these things actually come with, how do I put this down? They come with knowledge. As knowledge increases, models change. There's no model that is set in stone. So as a creative, you must learn to adapt, okay? Who are the people you are talking to? There's this crazy argument, I know must be happening in Ghana as well. In the ecosystem, people keep claiming that the tech people get all the money. When it comes to things like funding, you don't see it with creatives. If you don't position yourself as a creative, nobody is, it must be, like Ojoma said, mutually beneficial, okay? So you must have an adaptive, or we should start working towards having adaptive models that are fluid. It stays true to our practice, but it can change as things change. I don't know if I've answered your question, but that's my take on it, really. Hello, Gideon, are you here?
It seems like he's frozen.
I think so. Okay. Well, I don't know if I've answered the question, but for me, I really think that for those of us in the creative industry, our business models truthfully must be adaptive. We must be ready to change. We must be ready to change with it. As things evolve, we must be ready to evolve as well. The kind of practice we used to have where you created art and then you just waited for the world to come to you is really no longer tenable. The traditional means where we used to look for businesses, as it were, are all really changing now. So if before maybe your mainstream, for instance, was television, now the internet seems to be like the next great thing that is happening. Even conventional people who used to create films and do the distribution chain through, theaters and all, are learning to know that they best take their content to the Netflix and Prime videos if they want to really make, an impact as soon as possible. Devices are changing, people are viewing content in a different way. And it's very important that we, especially on this continent, evolve as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing those insights. That is great. Now, I want to ask Ojoma, in your submission earlier, you spoke about artists understanding the ecosystem and knowing the trends, like Philip mentioned. And I know your work is taking you around through the ecosystems of Africa. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Oduma, your work is taking you across, and I think you have a good understanding of both worlds, Africa, Europe, everywhere. What are the trends that artists should be on the lookout for that will help them to scale, be sustainable, and all that?
Gosh, so I think the biggest trend for me, or the biggest shift, is around the role that technology plays. And when I say technology, there's so many technologies. Whether you're talking about platforms that are aggregating suppliers to markets, or platforms that are aggregating supply chain. So what do I mean? So either platforms that are helping you sell your art, or platforms that are helping you access the tools that you need for your work, or platforms that enable you access knowledge, or that enable you network. Platforms are one type of technology. There's also technologies around the making of the arts. If people have seen, I forget the name of it, the graphic design software where you no longer need graphic design. No, Canva is even really basic. There's an artificial intelligence graphic design. It's called something diffusion. I don't remember the name of it. Sorry, give me a second. So the software enables you to do graphic design without having graphic design skills, using artificial intelligence. There's another software that's based on artificial intelligence called GPT-3, where if I want to design a red couch, all I need to write is red couch, and then the software, the AI, will give me a red couch. So technology is fundamentally changing how creative products are made. And so I think artists need to understand what that means for their business. Artificial intelligence is already writing books, screenplays, songs. The World Economic Forum predicts that by, I think it's 2025, artificial intelligence will write books that are on the New York bestseller list. What do all these things mean for art? We need to understand what those shifts mean. So I think for me, the biggest trends are around how all these different technologies, or even extended reality, and how art is consumed. I went to a theater the other day, and you could encounter the theater either the way it is now, or the way the theater was in 18-something when it was built, by putting on glasses and just entering a different universe of the theater. So I think for me, the biggest trend I'm seeing is around technology and how it changes the way we make art, the way we distribute art, the way we consume art, the way that audiences engage with art. So I think that's, if there's one single thing, it will be technology.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Luis, you are also doing a lot in the ecosystem and pushing for the sustainability of your business. What are the lessons that you have picked scaling your business that artists need to be aware of so that their business does not remain only traditional and unable to sustain themselves over the period?
I think what Ojoma, I like what she said. I'll pick up from there. If COVID taught us a huge lesson, a greater part of the work I was doing was live stage plays. And when COVID hit, we couldn't move out. We couldn't do live stage plays. Another was radio drama, and we were all gathered in a room. We write a script, we record live, either live or pre-record, and then get it aired on radio. Another was KJTF Makola TV show that was doing so well. But when COVID hit, and we were supposed to social distance, there was no way we could gather and do those. It hit my company flat down. Sponsors, advertisers started cutting down advertisements. But fortunately for me, I had enrolled into an MFA program at KNUST, and we're learning how to adapt or use new technologies to tell our stories as artists. And so quickly we had to fall on using, if people are using Zoom for conferences, can we use Zoom to tell stories? Can we use, everybody stay in their houses and use phones to tell stories? And so we had to come up with new concepts. Even though we did not fully launch these products before the restrictions were brought down, and then we had to, things came to normalcy. The lesson there for me and for all other artists is that we cannot be complacent and we cannot sit and just settle. We must begin to join our fellows who are into the technological fields, who are creating the apps and the softwares. She mentioned extended realities. We are looking at the virtual realities and what's this called? The other brother of augmented reality.
Augmented reality.
These are, yes, augmented. These are the places the world is going. And so we must be there before the technology gets there. We must join them as they develop the technologies. I joined a workshop some few months ago in another hub, your sister hub at Kenton Chrono. And these are the things we need. But I can see a lot of my colleagues sitting and waiting and being traditional. We might not be counted when, and that is when, that is why the West takes over our market. That is why Netflix will come and then be doing so well in Africa, and still there's no giant app across Africa for the African market. And they cannot understand our market and our people the way we do. However, we do not have the systems to create the products for our market the way we should. And so then we succumb and even support the sins that come from the West. And this is what we need to sit up and wake up to. We must join technology.
Yeah, I think we've lost Luis. Thank you, Luis, for sharing that with us. Now, I wish I could freeze time, but unfortunately, we have some few minutes left. I will allow Ojoma to say her final words as she needs to jump or hop into another meeting. And then I'll come back to Luis and Philip to also share theirs.
Sure, thanks very much, Gideon. So I guess my final word is, if you're running a business, you need to build a whole community around your business of people that you work with or people that support you in a way that's mutually beneficial, as I said before. And in terms of business models and building all these markets, people don't just wake up one day to be in your community. So it's something that takes time. You need to dedicate as much time to building that network and that community as you take to actually making the art. Louise said something critical. It doesn't mean that you need to do all of this yourself. You find people that have those skills, but it takes time to get people to believe in you and to support the work that you're doing. So you need to show up every day and be consistent. There's so many tools now in terms of social media and using social media to share the work you're doing. Don't only post about the things that you're selling, right? You need to build an audience, use different tactics to build an audience that you're engaged with, and that makes it easier for you to sell and monetize through the different revenue streams that you've identified. So that would be my sort of final word in this webinar. Thanks very much for inviting me, and it was really good to see you, Philip, and good to meet you, Louise.
Thank you very much, Ojoma. It's great having you and spending this time for you. It's been a lot of learning for all of us. We will definitely reach out to you should we need your support soon. Yes. Thank you, Ojoma.
Thanks
now
much.
I'll come to, you're welcome. I'll come to Louis. Any final thoughts? We couldn't allow the participants to ask questions, but any final thoughts for them?
Is Louis still on?
He's on, but okay, then probably Philip, you can share your final thoughts until we're able to get
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Louis back. Yes, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
So my final thoughts would be that every creative really needs to gear up and start learning. You might not know it all, but you need to start figuring out new ways, of doing things, because the old ways are truthfully passing. If you can't do it yourself, you need to build critical relationships that will allow people to do it for you. That in a way, like Ojoma said, that is beneficial to both parties. I fear that the rate at which you are going, the old ways may soon go, they may vanish. Yeah. And where will you be on this continent? Like Louis mentioned, Netflix comes into somewhere like Africa and they have this huge market. But the amazing thing I have discovered is that the Africans who have quickly adapted to change are actually producing content that is on Netflix. And that's allowed them to play on that platform in such a big way. They now have access to the entire continent via Netflix. So it's a profitable relationship. But when you see the content there, it's really up to standard. It's amazing. The storylines are fresh, and things are really transformed. So all I'm saying is that we need to keep evolving. If we don't evolve, the ecosystem is evolving. You will simply cease to exist as a business. So let's learn new ways of doing things. Let's reach out and have, for me, one thing that is always key, like I would say, is collaboration. It's very important to have collaborations. These silos, and people have mentioned it, I think, in the comments earlier, that people exist in silos. We must understand that that is no longer tenable. If you pick your best skill and you match it with someone else's best skill, the results, I guarantee you, will be phenomenal. And you can all share the credit and all that comes with it. So collaborations, learning, evolving, and we'll get there. Thank you.
Oh, that's great to hear. And I think that's in line with what Andrews wrote, that the British Council, for instance, has an art portfolio in Ghana. And it's encouraging all creatives to reach out to that so that they can benefit. We need to widen the network. Unfortunately, I think Lewis has dropped again. Network challenges. So now I don't know if any on the call will have something to add for 1 minute. We have only 1 minute left. Other than that, because we don't have Lewis, I will bring the meeting to an end. Mauli, I see your question. It is something that we will put up for the next webinar in terms of IP, copyright, royalties, as that is also very important in the creative industry as much as it is in any other industry. So hold on tight to that question. We'll discuss that in details in the next webinar. Okay, so then thank you all for making time for the first of the series of webinars that we are going to have online targeting the creatives. It's been great having Philip as always on the call and sharing with us. Odioma is gone, but we all love her. She has actually shared great insights, and all of us can learn from it and be able to pass on to other artists, especially the incoming ones. The insights shared by Louise, amazing. Louise is doing a lot of tips or adaptable in his business model, helping him to succeed, and we'll see the great works that he's doing in Ghana and then in the creative industry. We are happy that we're able to connect with people from Nigeria, from Jamaica, Ghana, all together on this. And that's the what we are talking about, right? Taking advantage of new trends. Earlier on, people might have had to travel all the way to Ghana physically at Hyperspace for us to do this, but this is even being broadcasted live on YouTube as we are having this on Zoom. So it's great. We invite you to join us next month for the next webinar, and we'll send invitations to all of you. It's been great having you. And Philip, send our regards to all in Nigeria.
Thank you very much for having me. Best wishes and talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Bye-bye, everyone. Oh, Philip, before you go, I think everyone, for those who can put on their cameras, we can take an online selfie.
So you are using technology already, eh?
Yes, we have to. So those who can put on their cameras, please do. Yeah, great. So I'm going to count down from 5. Then we'll take it. So 5, 4, 3, 1. Ready? Put on some smiles. Some smiles. I've taken 1 million of them. So Andrews, it was great having you.
Same here.
Yes. We hope that we'll be able to do this on monthly basis so that we can all learn. Enjoy your evening and see you in the next webinar. Bye-bye. Philip, he's frozen. Okay.